This is Heart to Heart podcast hosted by Leena Kewlani, Artezaar.com, online art gallery.
A very, very good day to all the listeners out there. Today we have a very inspiring, very special guest who I'm actually proud to call my friend. I've spent quite a few years working together, and over that time we've become really good friends. She is the founder of what is Dubai's fastest growing online website for artists. It's an art platform called Artezaar. But that's not where her story starts. Everybody, please say hello to Leena Kewlani.
Hi.
Hey, Leena. Good to
Hello.
have you here.
Thank you.
So tell us, how did this whole journey kind of come to the point that you are at today with Artezaar? I mean, starting in advertising, and then once you were really at the peak of your powers and you were a known person in the industry, to just kind of like chuck it all and then say, you know what, I'm going to do something completely different. How does that happen?
So I studied marketing and advertising in AUD, American University in Dubai, and I had a professor called Lance Demasi.
So you're a Dubai kid.
I'm a Africa Dubai kid.
Okay.
So I was studying there, and I got an internship at Impact BBDO from where I was hired. With Lance Demasi, Harut Krikorian, and Ravi Rao. And my first brands that I worked on were Pepsi and Wella. And that was the time when Pepsi had just signed on celebrity endorsements with footballers. It was the FIFA World Cup. So you had posters of everyone around. You had Ricky Martin with the song. So it was one of those.
Fun
It
times.
was one of the best accounts you could have worked on when you got out of uni. It was a dream account. I then moved on to a planning agency because I was a buyer there, called Reflection, which was very small, but I worked on Reckitt Benckiser, and that is where I actually grew in terms of planning knowledge. I worked on Dettol, Piff Paff, and a lot of other brands. Then I got hired at Starcom Media West, and I think that's where the wings started to come out because I worked on a brand called Nokia, I worked on Philips, I worked on different brands, but Nokia was probably one of the brands I considered that gave me recognition and it gave me growth along with Qatar Airways.
So with all these, these are big brands. There must have been a lot of pressure.
A lot of.
And Dubai being a result-oriented place.
Right.
To, do the right thing, do it quickly, and,
they just kept churning.
Right.
It was just a churning. But what I loved about Starcom Media West in those days, I'm saying, is they actually invested in training managers. So
Okay.
I grew, at the age of 24, I was a manager, but I didn't know how to be a manager. They recognized that, and they got me training with the PNG training team. So I could be a better manager. I could manage not only me, my time, the workload, but also my team. How do I make them inclusive, not exclusive? And I give them credit for that, because had that not happened, I would have been the worst manager on the planet. From there, I got hired to MEC, which is now Wavemaker. I was very blessed to work with a gentleman called Mohan Nambiar, who then took what I knew and said, you know what, I'm going to place you in every single department and you're going to learn. And he just kept changing my role. Every year, I had something new to do.
So basically, you were in every department. You knew how the whole organization functioned.
I knew how the whole organization
and
worked.
I can kind of, I can tell how that helps, because even when I started initially, it was as a writer. I was hired as a writer, copywriter, but I had to spend like a month in media buying, a month in media planning, a month with the client services people. So it gave me a lot more empathy for the processes, and then when you're ideating, that helps a lot, because then you understand. You just don't pull ideas out of the air.
You just don't pull, and you don't just say, "Oh, you're supposed to do this," because now you know what goes into doing that. How much time they need to do that. So you respect each other's time and you respect each other's talents. So from there, I just kept, one day he's like, you got to lead this new business pitch. I was like, I don't even know how to do it. And that was Virgin Atlantic. And I think that's where you and I started working together, where we painted all the newspapers red, literally. And it was stuff like this that helped us grow. Then he recognized that I had a creative streak in me. And he said, okay, you're going to do event sponsorship and what we now call content, branded content.
Okay.
So I got to work with Sony Ericsson. I got to work with, I got to work with Land Rover, Jaguar, Ford. I got to work with multiple brands. Nestle. We created Maggie Diaries. It's an award-winning campaign, and we just started growing as a content division.
So this is developing digital content at an age where this was just about becoming a phenomenon.
Yeah, so we started with television content. So we would integrate in Arab's Got Talent, in Arab Idol, in the series, Bab al-Harra, if I remember correctly. And all of it started growing. And then from there, we shifted into digital and creating digital content. And that's when I learned production. I started sitting behind editor desks. And I would watch Arabic content getting edited. So I learned editing. I learned light. I learned camera. I learned shots. I learned so many things, which is so out of what I would have started if I'd stayed as a buyer.
Right.
And he gave me those wings. And then 2014, I took some time off, and I came back in 2015, and I joined Shwari Group. Now this is the other side where I'm selling media. So all of a sudden, I have empathy on what a salesperson goes through. How do we now frame ideas for agencies and get content on board for our platforms? So I started working with Al Arabiya. I started working with all of DMS. And I started working with Dubai channels. So it just kept growing and evolving from there. And, I was very blessed when I had bosses who just said, do it. And imagine I'm a woman in a man's world. But yet I never hit the glass ceiling. And I think that was because I had people who believed in me. And I had a very, very fabulous teams everywhere. So I think if a team and an organization works, that glass ceiling doesn't exist. It hasn't for me.
So you've got all this experience, right? You've got all these learnings that you've had, which are skewed towards, taking you to the pinnacle in the advertising, marketing related field. Where does painting come into this?
So I always used to paint. It was my refuge. So I used to do it on the weekends because I had 2 to 3 phones, 2 laptops. I was so exhausted. I would work weekends because we shoot on weekends. We film on weekends. We work. We have pitches. I mean, we live with each other 20 hours a day. And then the one day I would get off, I would run away. And that was my refuge. So in 2014, when I started finding my style, I would use the knife a lot more. I knew where I wanted. I had a whole bunch of paintings. And then I went looking, saying, oh, there must be people that can help me sell or help me display or help me exhibit. Now, I would email people. I would call people. I would go to their website. I would fill in contact forms. And I realized you're running an e-commerce. There's no click button to buy. You're not responding to customers. People didn't know how to trigger their Instagrams. So there was so many gaps I started seeing. And I was like, okay, if I can see these gaps, then I can't imagine other artists seeing these gaps. So what is there for us as an ecosystem? Right. And I think that started triggering me a lot more. And I would talk to my father a lot more. And I think he said it out of not understanding what he said, where he said, digital, just do something. And I didn't realize that kind of...
So it started as a whim and a fancy, like, let's just kind of see
like,
where this takes us.
See what you can do. And I was like, okay. So I remember when I sat down with Michel and I told him, and I said, Michel, I really feel strongly about this. I need a year. I want a year. I'm sure there are 20 of me out there. I just want to make a difference. I want to feel like I've done something. I do a lot for brands, but I feel like I haven't done anything for people like me.
But tell me one thing. I mean, did you ever get an opportunity to kind of, use your creative side? Okay, like you're a painter, you're an artist, like during your stint in advertising for work, for doing like layouts. But that was not enough for you. I mean, like you wanted to kind of focus purely on the creative expression for yourself.
I wanted to focus for me. I think I wanted something for me.
Right.
Because I was doing it for brands.
Correct.
And then I thought there must be 20 of me out there who's craving something like that. Not realizing there's a lot more.
But it must have been instantly terrifying to go from, where every month you've got your salary coming in.
It was very terrifying.
and then to say like, listen, I don't know the revenue stream anymore.
Nothing.
And it's not like I'm setting up a digital agency where I know everything. This is
No.
something complete. Yes, I do know how to kind of, a website, manage SEOs and stuff like that. I know what it stands for, what it does. But then to actually kind of execute that, like what was the final push? What prompted you to kind of
So
say...
the push was the passion, but the terror didn't go. Every month I hit a terror because there's no income coming in. There's income going out. Right? You're tapping into your life savings now. And there's income coming in. There's no income coming in. There's just income
You're
coming
just
out.
paying out.
You're just paying out because, when people think, oh, we'll set up a website and it'll work, it doesn't.
No, and like you said, there were websites, but they weren't doing the job.
They weren't doing the job.
So to kind of create that momentum would probably take some time,
It took a good 2 years. I won't deny it.
2 years.
Definitely 2 years. And I think COVID helped. And the
Okay.
reason COVID helped is people sat in their homes looking at a blank wall. They have a
Right.
desk now that they didn't have. They have a PC there. They have to work.
So
And they have a blank wall.
You're stuck between these walls, and now what do I
Now
do?
what do I do? So they
Yeah.
went looking for art.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Some of my biggest sales came in COVID.
Oh, that's very, very
In
interesting.
lockdown. In lockdown.
Very interesting.
Where I've called people saying, hi, we're in lockdown. Yes, whenever lockdown opens, you bring the painting. It was like that.
So people, because they had time to themselves, actually started indulging
They
more in
started-
the arts and,
They started beautifying their homes. They started creating these spaces. They understood mindfulness a lot more. They started appreciating small businesses.
And would you say that definitely contributed towards the rapid rise of Artezaar? Because
100%.
today it is one of the most awarded sites. I
Yeah.
think recently you were awarded another
Yes.
accolade. So yeah, and they keep on coming. So was this like a
So-
the thing that turned it over? Because like you said, 2 years, it's a lot of time. to
It's a
kind
lot of time.
Yeah.
But it was, the first 6 months went into finding artists. And very
And
honestly,
how difficult was that?
it wasn't. It was word of mouth. We got flooded. I honestly thought 20. By the time we were in August, we were 40 when we actually launched in August 2019. When COVID came around, we hit over 100. And then we had to establish a process. We're like, wait, this is too much. And then sales started growing. So we had to figure out couriers. We had to figure out a lot of other things. And as the business started growing, because we were at the right place at the right time with the right website, with customer service, as I call it.
On both sides, with the artists as well.
With everything.
Because this business is purely based on trust. I
It's
mean, like the
purely
artists
trust.
have to trust you to be able to kind of,
Send their
do
work
right
properly.
by them.
Exactly.
Yes. And in terms of the finances and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's the trust angle is huge in this. And you not being basically an artist within the community, somebody who's known, I mean,
No,
you
because I just
in-
came.
yeah. So how much of, how much of that was a hustle that you kind of, pulled out of your years in the advertising trenches?
So I honestly built relationships. And I can still tell you that some of those friendships that I did in COVID are still there. So we would sit on Zoom with a cup of coffee and I would tell them, get to know me. You need an
Right.
hour, 2 hours, get to know me.
So you did a lot of one-on-ones
I
with
did
the
a
artists
lot of
and
one-to-ones.
also with buyers and stuff.
And yeah. And then I would personally, there was no courier. I would personally go to a buyer's house to deliver because there was no courier.
That's like the success story for every big business. I think even with Apple, I think Steve Jobs used to kind of take the computer in
And
his
go,
car and
exactly.
drop it off.
And I didn't realize that till later when I read about it. Because I think you just go with the flow. So I would drive to the artist's house, stack up the paintings. Like I had a list. So today was collection day. I would go all the way up to Ajman to collect paintings. Then I would sit down the next day and make a delivery schedule, call up the buyers and kind of give them an approximate timing that I'm coming.
Right.
And I would go and deliver. And it was COVID.
As simple as that.
It was COVID. So it wasn't like I was I think only one buyer invited me in. But otherwise, you know, it was COVID. So people were a bit scared. So they would say, could you leave it out at the doorstep? Please don't mind. I'm like, no, it's fine.
That's fine.
So I would, you know, I had it labeled and I would take it out of the car and put it outside the door. And this is how we did it.
That's how you build things.
Yeah. And then we would pay people. And, you know, so then the trust started growing because payment is a huge issue in any industry. So, you know, I come from a perspective, when you get paid, you pay out on time. You have to do that. That's
Right.
how trust is built. And
Right.
that word of mouth went a very long way because one artist would recommend me to three would recommend me to six. And before we knew it,
It just snowballed.
It just snowballed. And then came World Art Dubai in my life. And
Okay.
we took a very, very small stand. I think it was 9 square meter, to be honest. And it was beautiful. From there, my journey with them started and it just went
Sorry,
off.
tell me one thing. I'm just going to go back a little bit,
Go.
okay? Because you said getting people to pay up, like money is the most tricky
Right.
part of the business. So how did you manage to kind of make that work in your favor? I mean, you're starting from scratch, so it's not like you have a huge pot of money. You're digging into your savings. So obviously you're careful with the
Right.
monies you're paying. What happens when, you know, your customers are not paying you on time?
So we
So
don't-
what was the model that you
The
worked
model is we don't deliver till we get paid.
on? Okay.
I pay, you pay me on delivery.
And then that way you can take care of the artists and
And I'm
your
very
overheads.
clear on that because I commit to the artist. When they're giving me their piece, they know they know if it's not paid for, Leena will return the painting back.
Right. No, I know because I bought a couple from you. So
Yeah.
yes, that's how it
You know,
works.
so it
yes.
always works that way. Where
It does what it says on the box. It's very clear.
It's
yeah.
very clear, and I haven't deviated from the last 5 years on it, even though people keep saying, "Oh, you should have." I say no. Now I have payment gateways. I have, you know, you can do it on installment with Tabby. You can pay on Teller. You can do a bank transfer, or you can give me cash. I mean, I've given you all the models.
And did like all your experience with, you know, with content creation and all of that help you with you know, kind of getting a better understanding of like these payment gateways and how to incorporate
So yeah,
into your
because I
business?
worked on e-commerces in the agency world, you know, you would hear the brand talking to payment gateways. You would hear about the brand talking about getting this person on board. You would hear the brand sorting out delivery partners. So when you wouldn't be physically involved in it, but you would be part of the conversation, and that would be my to-do list, and I would keep checking it off. You know, like
Right.
and like we found a courier who was also a startup.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked very closely with them. So, you know, we just...
So you were kind of helping people
each
who are
other.
the same
Yeah,
kind of...
it was very beautiful because it was all startups coming together.
Right.
You know, interns coming together. I have an experience to share. You are coming in with an experience. Let's all share it and let's grow it. And I
Right.
think that has been a model that I've stuck by. You know, support small businesses like myself so
Right.
that you're one-to-one with the owners
Mm-hmm.
and you're getting things done.
So in all of this, what happens to Leena the artist?
Oh,
The
Leena.
reason why you kind of said, you know, it's because that's my refuge and I just want to give it a little bit
Yeah.
more breathing. And now you've turned this into a business, which I'm sure takes up all of your time.
It does.
So what happens to Leena the artist? And
So Leena the artist somewhere, and I've been
are
struggling
you still
with this.
are you still doing art? Are you still
I haven't painted in 6 months.
Okay.
And I did do sculptures, but I haven't painted. So I tell people this. I said, look, there is one human who's unable to paint due to workload because I only paint in the mornings or the afternoons. I can't paint at night. My brain doesn't process colors properly. I prefer light. I prefer daylight. I prefer, you know, music. I just like an environment that time. So I tell people this. I said, look, it's taken one human who sometimes has to give up her art. 199 of you shouldn't do that. Please paint.
Right.
And I get, honestly, which people find very funny, I get a lot of joy when I sell any piece of art. It doesn't matter if it's 300 dirhams or 30,000 dirhams, honestly.
So it's safe to say that now the transition has happened and Artezaar.com has become your refuge.
Artezaar is something I do happily every day. I do wake up.
Yeah, because the reason why I'm saying this is because you said that painting was your refuge.
Yeah.
Now you've not been painting, but you're just giving all your time and energies
yeah.
towards Artezaar. So that's become your refuge, and that's
No,
where
so
you
this
kind
is
of...
honestly, it's not my refuge. It's honestly, I do consider it my baby.
Okay.
It's a baby which I feel like, which a lot of people don't realize, it's a new business, right? So your baby just doesn't, you don't give birth and it starts running and shouting and going to school.
No.
You know, baby needs diaper change, baby needs to grow,
Yeah,
baby
unless
needs
you have
new
Big
doctor.
Daddy backing you
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
then,
you need
then
a lot
it's-
of stuff
then it's
happening with the
something
baby.
Yes.
So right now my baby is 5 years old. So my baby is now going to high school, as I call it. I actually go with the fact that, you know, as a child,
Right.
what the baby does for mama.
So you have the growth stages.
I have my
yes.
growth stages. You know, baby throws tantrums. Baby does have, you know, and tantrums, which I find it funny, but tantrums could be something going wrong on the website. It is a baby.
Right.
It does throw tantrums
And it's
on me.
technology.
And
There'll be
it's tech.
glitches, yes, of course.
It's tech, right? Baby's friend Instagram doesn't like it today. You know, so you have those friendships happening. So I go with that. But what I am struggling to do, and I am trying to find my best to do, is allocate 2 days a week where I can paint. And I've come to points where I realize that there's some low periods. That is my time to paint. That is my time to go into the studio and do sculptures and do pottery and go back to who I am. I get inspired when I see a lot of people's work, and I do pick up the phone and I say, how did you do this? Because
Right.
each one of us is different.
Yes,
Each
so the
one of us
curiosity is
creates,
still there,
Yeah,
yes.
And I spend an hour actually understanding techniques from them. Because
Correct.
on the call, it doesn't matter, but the point is it's knowledge. I
Yeah.
will consume videos when I see something spectacular happening. Like I was very fascinated with alcohol inks. I would just consume videos, just trying to understand what is this beautiful medium that I've never been exposed to.
So how important are these collaborations and partnerships to you, not just on a personal front, but even from a business point of view?
So for me,
Because look, I mean,
Yeah.
you can have collabs, but there are times when you feel it might be diluting your personality. Like, so how important is it, and how do you kind of maintain that balance to kind of still keep your personality, so that Artezaar still reflects what you want it to be,
Right.
and who you want it to be?
So everything about Artezaar is collab. Everything about Artezaar is teamwork.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
it has to be.
It
Because,
has to
yeah,
be.
Yeah.
And so the first thing is I have a beautiful team that works with me. Be it the person who manages my social media or the people who upload their artworks, that's still work. Then I have somebody who does on-page SEO. I have a team that does off-page SEO, Google ads and search ads. Then I have an accounting team, and I have a courier team, and I consider them teams because all the elements put together is one painting being sold. Right? It's just...
Right. So it's all working towards getting
all,
that painting,
from the
yeah,
payment
off the
gateway
shelf, yeah.
team to everyone. And I make an honest effort to get to know the person behind the call.
Right.
I do. So I know the guys at Teller. I know the guys, how they work. I know the guys at the courier companies, because I like them knowing me and me knowing them. So we are all part of a team.
How many people do you have?
Honestly, if I count, we're about 14 people as a team.
Right. But there are freelancers in that.
They're
It's a mix.
freelancers, they're different companies, but they're all
Correct.
partnerships and collaborations.
Correct. But
right?
they're all part of, you look at them as like part
I
of the
look
same
at it
team.
as
Yeah.
one
It's
big
not like,
Artezaar
yeah.
team.
Correct.
Right? Because they're all contributing in some shape or form to help us artists get somewhere.
Right.
Right? So I prefer that. Second, I then have the gallery team. So collaborating with Ream Art Gallery, Dubai International Art Center, Cross Borders Art Gallery, we're all galleries with a similar mission. Funoon Art Gallery. We're all galleries with a similar mission, which is to help the artist display and sell their work. I'm an
Right.
online gallery. They're physical spaces. Let's come together. Let's create something bigger. Power of two versus power of one. It's that stick thing. You can break one stick, but you can't break 5 sticks
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
So for me, it's that. So I prefer, they are also my partners. When I need a space to run a workshop, I need a space for an artist to go and paint, I need a space to go finish my paintings, I just call them up. Hey, can I use your studio? Come.
No, and I totally buy into that, because even here at MangoJam Studios, I mean, we're an audio post-production house. I tend to, I don't, have that feeling that we are competitors with the other players in the market.
Exactly.
We're friends. We actually have on occasions collaborated, where I've needed a studio, I've reached out. Where they've needed a studio or voiceover, they've reached out to me.
Exactly.
And the belief is that if the industry grows as
We
a
all
whole,
grow.
we'll all grow. So that's a very refreshing take in this, cutthroat world where everybody's trying to get a leg up on the next person,
No.
and you're just trying to kind of push your competition away so that you can
So
monopolize.
I don't believe in competition because I believe we are 7 billion people. The world is abundant,
Yeah, and increasing.
right? And we're increasing. And if every single person buys a piece of art, I don't have enough to fulfill that demand. You don't have it. Someone else doesn't
yeah,
have it. But
absolutely.
there's 7 billion people out there, 7 billion humans who will get attracted to your art or my art or her art,
Correct.
right? I can't please 7 billion.
Correct.
So for me, I think the world is abundant. Let's go. Just think of it as abundant. Let's not think of it as this is mine. It's ours.
So you would say one of the challenges would have been for you when you set this up would have been to change this mindset of, hey, I'm not here to compete with you, but I'm here to collaborate with you.
Yes,
so
and
that was one challenge.
that was one.
What are the biggest, what are the other challenges, and what would you consider would have been the biggest challenge for
So
you?
the biggest challenges, I think, one was the loss of income in the beginning, which threw me off drastically. And I would call you up and speak to you about it.
As an employed person,
Yeah, like
suddenly.
dude,
yeah.
how do you deal with this? Because you started your business before me,
Correct.
right? So you
Correct.
went through a similar
Yeah.
path.
From
So-
having a monthly income to no
No-
monthly income for almost 8 months while you're setting up, because a studio needs about 8 months of prep work.
Right.
And then slowly having, you need a
Something.
6-month period before the money starts coming in. Oh yeah, it was hell.
It is a mental thing to go through. Then the second thing was finding a whole new set of people I can rely on. Because I had a team that I blindly trusted in the ad world.
Correct.
They can't help me. They did help me to a certain extent when it came to setting up my Google ads, my how does Mama do this? Because I used to work at a directorial level.
Right.
Right.
So now you have to go to the
I have
nitty-gritties
to
of
do
it.
I have to
Yes.
do the actual ad. How do you do this? How do you research this? The guys used to do it and show
Correct.
it to me.
Correct.
Right? It wasn't me doing it.
Right.
And I was very blessed where the guys would be, come here, sit. In the agency, literally at Wavemaker, they would say, come sit here. Media, and even Media Edge guys, it was, MediaCom guys. They'd be like, come sit here.
Yeah.
Let's help you. And I thought that was so beautiful.
And there was a lot of goodwill that you had
Yes,
created, and
it
that was paying back at
But
that
it was
time.
so beautiful for someone to do that. It wasn't like, oh, she's no longer here. We don't have anything to do with her.
True.
Why invest?
True.
So those friendships, I think, and then building a similar set of friends that I could rely on when I was here.
So investing in relationships played a big part in
and
your success.
Yeah. And I needed those relationships because I would get lost at times. So I can actually pick up the call to, for example, yesterday, I picked up a call to the owner of Funun Arts Gallery, Shiba. And I said, Shiba, what do you think we should do about this? Just asking it from another entrepreneur's perspective.
Correct.
And the honesty between us.
Right.
It's not about this way, it's about that. Then thirdly, finding mentors who helped me curate my site. I needed professional artists who would dedicate their time for me, like Diali, Sen Bhalla and Jivan. They have been my mentors, where they've actually said, Leena, no, this is not how Artezaar should look. This is the kind of artworks. This is the kind of stuff. And I followed them because they knew better than me.
Yes, to help you set up a standard for the
standard.
whole. Yes.
This is who they are. And I followed them. So people would be like, oh, this. I'm like, no. If they say no, I will respect that because they come with 25, 30 years of experience that I don't have.
Right.
So for me, they were my mentors, putting those in place. Then I would find partners to display artworks like at hotels or offices. And I ended up, again, that relationship playing when they realize that you're not a supplier.
Yeah,
but a
you're
partner.
invested in the whole process. Yes.
And finding them leads. Like I met Cube Art Gallery during COVID. What do? They were printing, stretching, framing company. They've grown a lot in those years. But just being able to go in there and say, guys, I need help. I need this frame today.
Right.
Okay, sit, have a coffee. We'll get it done for you.
Right.
It was
Correct.
so good to have those partners and then send them, hey guys, there's a client looking for this. give them leads. They give you leads. And this is how we all grow together.
Correct.
And this is how we used to do it in the agency world, especially at Y&R and Asda and all, where
it was a collaborative effort.
It was a collaborative effort, right? If anybody needed everything, the whole agency just came together. It didn't matter if you worked on the account or didn't win it or doesn't. We all came together.
Correct.
And I think that was built into me. And that carried. And this is why Artezaar does what it does.
And which is why today you're one of the most, I think, awarded online platforms.
Yeah.
Tell us more about
honestly,
all these awards, and because in the advertising world we're used to having awards.
Oh, yeah,
the Munchos, the DNADs, the Clios, the Links. I mean, there's award season come. We have award season. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, we at Wavemaker were very shy. Let's not go there. Remember, if you remember my boss, he was very on the back foot. But
here, you guys are winning awards, at World Art and stuff like that.
So honestly, the first award we received was from the Best Online Art Gallery from UAE Business Awards, and a client nominated us.
Oh,
We didn't even nominate ourselves. The client nominated us.
Okay.
So that felt really good, and we won that. And then the year later, my team nominated it.
Right.
So that worked for us as well.
So you've won that twice, two years in a row.
2 years
now.
in a row.
Right.
And then at World Art Dubai, it was a shock. We didn't expect it because I consider it my home. And again, it's a whole team that puts that huge, massive show together. But to win Best Collective Art Gallery there amongst 300 international galleries was a very proud moment. I think I didn't stop shaking for like that for an hour. I was shaking because for the first time, it hit me that I won something that is for me. It wasn't for a brand.
And how many other art galleries were there in that?
300 plus.
So out of those 300, you guys were voted the best.
Best collective art gallery. Collective is because we give a platform to different artists. Mm-hmm. They can take up space for a painting or two paintings or 5 paintings. So it's like a collective piece of work coming together. So we won it.
So there's an element of curation also involved in that.
Huge curation.
Yeah, it's not just anything and everything goes.
No.
Even that comes into place.
Yes, and it's a process, and managing the show and being there and getting opportunities and all of it. So it was brilliant. And then we won from Tally, Wonder Woman, actually. My team nominated me there. I didn't even know. They filled out the form. They did everything. So half the time, it's not like I went looking. They would find it and do it. And I would be like, who did this? And it was really nice to see people do that.
Yeah, but it's also, I mean, it shows what an impact you probably had on these people for them to kind of, go out of their way to kind of nominate you.
Yeah, and it was very humbling winning it, because I felt I wasn't just winning it for myself, I was winning it for everyone.
So how do you deal with that added pressure now that, you're established, and we can say that?
Yes.
You're established now.
Yes.
How do you deal with the added pressure of having to maintain that level of, service, professionalism, having more people? I'm sure with the awards, you've got more people who've now become aware of your services. Yes. And, suddenly business can also just jump up exponentially. And that's the time where a lot of things can fall between the cracks.
Right.
Yeah? And because you can't, be everywhere all at once.
No, and that's where the friendships play a part now. Right? So when I have artists that I trust and people that I trust, they were like, at some point I had events happening, or when they wanted some collabs happening, I couldn't physically be there. They did it.
Right.
I would call up someone saying, hey, listen, I have this opportunity. I can't do it. Oh, don't worry, we'll do it.
Oh, great.
Right? So, that those collabs started happening.
Right.
I had to install prints in an office. And the team at CubeArt is like, don't worry, we'll get it done.
And they took over.
They helped me with it.
Right.
And we just worked as one big team. And it happens. And that is what I always tell people. I said, collab. Do partnerships. It's not about me, myself, and I. And that kind of gives that ecosystem the whole wing. Because what is art? It's joy, love, joy, respect.
I love that you put it that way. Love, joy, respect.
That's it. If we stand for those 3 things, then it's
respect,
a family.
Yes, absolutely. And Okay, so is there anything, looking back down the years, is there anything that you look at and think maybe I could have done this differently?
Nothing. I think every
No
little...
regrets.
No regrets. And every little element, every little personal triumph, failure, heartbreak, anything personally, professionally, all led me to where I am today. When I look back, it was just the universe sending me on a journey.
Right.
And that journey is still happening. So even when I don't paint for 6 months, I know it's a journey. I know there's something coming out of it. Don't get frustrated.
Right.
So I think my biggest learning is not to get frustrated.
So in a nutshell, if you had to give some advice to anybody who's considering like a second profession, or saying like, or is in that boat where I've had enough of the corporate world or whatever it is that I'm doing now and I want to kind of strike out and I have this idea, what advice would you give them?
So I would have told them, don't jump head first like I did, very honestly. I was very blessed because I had a lot of backup and everything behind me. But what I would tell them is run it as a second career. I was not fed up of the corporate world. I would have happily stayed on in my job. I just didn't think I could do both when I should have.
Okay.
I should have.
And you think you would have had the bandwidth to kind of be able to manage
At least the
both?
first couple of months, I would have had, to figure out rather than just walk away and do it. I think those couple of months would have given me a lot more wings.
Right.
It would have given me a lot more income to plug into my business as
Okay.
well, because I didn't expect how much the business needed.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
they
it's
say
just-
you make a proposal and then you add like double that, and that's the amount
yeah,
of
for
money
me it
you would
wasn't
need.
that. It was like 10 times that. But like it was just
Right.
it was just something. I just went and jumped in the deep end without realizing how deep is the deep.
So you're saying, I mean, and this is a big, like, people say you just have to kind of dive into the deep end and you'll figure it out.
No, I tell people,
you're saying
please
take a
figure
more
out.
conservative
Yeah, I
approach.
tell people in today's day and age, each one of us is a different human being with different family responsibilities, different professional, personal things happening in our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I come from a very different background. You come from a different background, but every one of us has that, right? Keep your career going. Start this on the side. Start mingling with people. Start meeting people. Start seeing, is this really what you want to do? Allocate the 2-3 days at night or in the afternoon. Allocate your weekends. Build this up.
Right.
And then ease into it.
So you do a beta version on the side. and then-
Exactly. Do a beta version. See, is this really something, that I can really full-fledged? And it's for any business.
No, but it's true, because I have a lot of people who say they want to be composers or they want to be voice artists, and I say, come, spend some time in the studio and then make up your mind. And trust me, out of maybe the 15 people that have come in, maybe 3 have said, oh, we want to continue doing this, whereas the remaining 12 said, oh, this is not what we envisaged this to be. I mean, like
Exactly.
we thought it'd be like a wholly different kind of thing I'll be creating, because they don't factor in clients and feedback. And it's not like, hey, every time you compose something, everybody's going to go clap. No, sometimes you have feedback. Sometimes people don't like it.
It's like
So-
selling art on the website,
Exactly,
right? I have
yeah.
2,000 pieces live.
Right.
Just because you come on doesn't mean you'll sell tomorrow.
So what you're advocating is, before you jump into the deep end, put your toes in and
Put
just
your toes in.
test the waters.
And test
and
the
then-
water. See how cold is it? Oh, do I like the temperature? Then go a little higher. Then go a little higher. And then figure it
Just
out.
immerse
See the
yourself once you're
fishes
ready.
around you.
Right.
See the little sharkies. Do you like the sharks? You don't
Right.
like the sharks. Oh, I like the whale.
Right.
It's
okay.
it's
So you figure it out as you go.
figure it out. And I
Yeah.
tell people, take that year and a half. I should have done that.
Right.
I was not fed up from the corporate world. I do miss it. I
Right.
do miss what I used to do. So I still catch up with my old colleagues and say, oh, take me through your campaigns. How did you come up with this idea? How
No,
did
but
you do this?
but that's good, because that curiosity at some point in time will filter into what you're doing.
filter into me, but like I'm learning about AI from them.
Exactly. Yeah, that was my next question. How is AI kind of affecting?
AI is coming up.
and
I
how
think,
are you kind of adapting to that?
So AI...
Or are you at all adapting?
No, 100% adapted. The website has started taking on a lot of the AI modules and a lot of it. So now you could actually choose a painting and see it on your wall before you even buy it. So we've integrated new features. We're trying to build it a lot more AI friendly.
Yes, you have to continuously innovate to be
Continuously innovate.
to stay in the game, actually.
Exactly. AI art is huge. Again, I tell people, don't go there and let AI create it for you. Let AI and the tools help you enhance it.
Right.
Because
Okay.
there's a whole element where people just think they'll type prompts and come up with an artwork.
Yeah, I mean that's
That's
now
not
the initial
yours.
stage, where
Yeah.
people are just experimenting. I feel
Yeah,
with
yeah.
a lot
It's
of
like
it. We see that in music too.
Whereas I'm trying to tell them that where's your base? Use that and let something
Yeah.
enhance it.
Or use it as an inspiration
As
for
an
you to kind of springboard
inspiration.
from.
So I have a beautiful little last story. There's a 11-year-old girl that I mentor, Maitha, and her mom was telling me that she talks to AI. She gives it its sketches,
Right.
and she says, "I am trying to do this painting," and she talks to them, amend stuff, figure out what she wants to do. So she has a couple of references, and then from there she starts to paint it.
Right.
But the whole thought of what she wants to do, her sketches
She's
are all
using
fed
AI,
in
to spark the
to
process.
spark the process, change things around. What about this? What about that? And then she keeps everything in front of her and she creates something else.
Right.
And I thought that's so amazing.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I think if we want to know what's happening in the future, we need to look at the kids and see what they're doing, because they're
Oh,
more
yeah.
intuitive than we were.
And
you
they,
know,
they take
and
on
it gets,
they take on technology
yes,
much
yes,
faster
because
than
they've grown up with that
Yeah.
technology, and then they're kind of just exponentially kind of imagining how this could evolve, whereas the guys who developed it now are kind of figuring out, okay, what next? But the kids intuitively have already kind of like figured that this is how it could go in this direction.
Exactly. And I think open ourselves up, like sustainability. How do you bring sustainability into your art?
Right.
The kids are a lot more open about, did you know we could do this? Did you know we could do that? And I'm like, oh, I didn't think of it.
Fantastic. Yes.
And I love that.
So, okay. It was really good talking to you.
It was really good talking to you.
Before we sign off, tell us a couple of things that nobody knows about you.
Oh.
One or two things that we don't know. I mean, okay, it could be instances, could be anything that happened that triggered something that, had an impact on your life.
So, one thing people don't know about me is I love cooking Sindhi food.
Okay.
I think out of everything, for me, my comfort food and the one I cook really well is Sindhi food.
So the culinary arts also.
Just Sindhi food.
Right.
I think for me that is big. So I actually have books of my grandmom and my mom's recipes. And
brilliant.
the one thing I really want to do when I can breathe a bit is make that into something for people.
So I have an idea for you. You could incorporate maybe, paint pictures of those dishes and incorporate a Sindhi cookbook.
Something around that. But I want to bring it out.
I want royalty on that book if you do it.
Okay, done. You'll market it. You can do the copywriting. Go back to your roots.
Oh, brilliant.
That's the
Awesome.
one thing. Second thing, what a lot of people don't know is when I don't paint or do things for a while, I can create 4 canvases, but one of them that will finish will be a Ganesha. Always.
So that's your muse.
That's my muse. If I ever get stuck like I am right now, I know there's a Ganesha coming out of it.
Wow.
That
Okay.
kickstarts
Why
it.
Ganesha? I mean,
I don't know. I've done so. I love elephants and I love Ganesha, but for me, that I think sparks it all. So whenever I'm stuck like I know I am right now, I haven't painted in 6 months, I know the first painting that will come out and that will flow it all would be a Ganesha.
That's because he's the god of wisdom and knowledge, I think.
Is
so
it?
Maybe
I don't know. For
that's
me-
where it lies subliminally. That's
So
what
I've
you're
probably,
getting
I
at.
don't know how many, I've probably done 100, more than 100, 200 sculptures come paintings of him.
And may you keep doing more.
Thank you.
May Artezaar keep growing.
Thank you.
Winning more awards.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the very best.
Thank
and
you very
Thank you
much.
so much for your time and for coming here today. And we'll see you soon.